Hello and welcome to Brand X Reviews. Today I'm going to be doing a review of Rambo Last Blood. Now, spoiler alert, I am going to be talking about spoilers in this review, so if you're interested in, if you're not wanting to know any details from the movie that might ruin it for you, this isn't the video for you, so you've been warned. So basically, if you've seen the channel here before, you've seen me talk about Rambo films in the past. In fact, 5 years ago, I actually did a video about this film as it was kind of in production stage. It's taken a long time to get off the ground, really, but I did actually talk about how Stallone had been making comments about this film and how it was going to cover certain storylines going across the border through to Mexico to rescue some female. Wasn't really specified at the time exactly what the dynamic was going to be, but it's pretty much what they went with this. So if you've seen the trailer, you generally get the gist of what the film is about. But there's more to the film than the trailer shows, other than what you would normally expect from a Rambo movie. There's a bit more to it. I do know, like I said, I covered this 5 years ago and I was saying this is what we can probably expect when this film eventually comes out. And I think to a certain degree a lot of that was accurate. Obviously, modern age of action movies, we have had things like The Bourne Identity, we've had things like Taken, which this is massively feels like it's drawing from that. I think they're a bit more sophisticated nowadays. Not necessarily more intelligent, but I think the audience kind of needs to exercise a bit more intelligence when watching films nowadays, just given this sort of higher standard. So to go back to a franchise like Rambo is going to be tricky because obviously, as much as I love those films, they are kind of dumb action films. That's escapism, it's all good. Nothing, I'm not saying that in a bad way. So to bring it back, obviously, where the audience today might be expecting a certain thing, you could be setting yourself up for disappointment there. You can certainly say that about this. It's certainly accurate. There is a certain element of switch your brain off to it. But I did think it was a bit more grounded than, for example, The Expendables, because he was had as an example, because that's effectively Stallone going out full blown like this was the genre. It's not just a Rambo sequel. This is a more broader like genre sequel with the Expendables franchise. Whereas with Rambo, I think it's more of a specific thing. So the fourth film, obviously, that came out back in late 2007 was quite critically acclaimed. I think because it felt more grounded, it felt more like it was set in the real world. For example, the film opens with, it's fake footage, but realistic looking news footage from what actually goes on in Burma. You didn't really get that from the original three. This film is a very different tone to the fourth film. It's very different in the way that it's filmed, the way that the character is. I'm going to cover some of the critics, some of the negative criticism that this film has had towards the end of the video. I'll kind of keep that all there. But obviously there's been some concern that the Rambo character in this is more like a generic Stallone action hero and doesn't feel like the John Rambo that we've had in the previous four movies. I agree and disagree with that. You've got to remember the fourth film ended with him pretty much coming full circle. I know they they implied that in the third one, but in the fourth one there is literally an A to B to C with him coming full circle to the point where he literally goes home to see his father at the end of that. And this film has kind of picked up from that, albeit a decade later. He's obviously gone home, and in those 10 years or whatever, he's had family that he's gone back to, and as it turns out, it's actually his niece. And this girl, she's about 17. The gist of it is she wants to go to Mexico to meet her real father, who she hasn't seen since she was a child, and he was very abusive. He's not really a part of the plot, by the way, but she wants to go to see him. They talk her out of it. She finds out where he is. She goes anyway on her own and ends up getting kidnapped by... This is where it gets to become very much like Taken. She gets kidnapped by a sex trafficking gang, and nothing happens to her. She doesn't get raped or anything like that, but it's getting close to it, and she does get to the point where she is injected with drugs repeatedly because she's at their mercy for quite a few days. So she's overdosed on drugs. Rambo breaks in, finds out where she is. There's lots of blood and gore. He rescues her. On the way back, she dies of an overdose from everything. He couldn't save her. So at this point, it's just mindless revenge, which is quite satisfying to watch. Again, it's a Rambo movie. It's what you kind of expect. But going back to my original point, him being a little bit more it feels like a bit more of a normal guy towards the earlier part of the film. Obviously, we know it's Rambo, but he feels a bit more normalised than he has ever before. But that makes sense because he's softened up because he's been looking after this niece of his for the last 10 years. She means the world to him, and that world comes crashing down when she dies, at which point he then reverts back to the Rambo that we know and love. So you can say it doesn't feel like Rambo to you, but to me it made absolute sense. A connective tissue from there to there completely made sense. Kind of similar thing that I liked about the first Creed film as well, the kind of dynamic between the two of them. It could so easily have not worked. Like, why would he train him? Why would he do chemotherapy? All that kind of stuff. It's like it made sense in the story as to why they did that. You can literally explain it without having to stretch. In this one, it does make sense. So, again, that's some criticisms that has been made about it. But obviously, towards the end, it kind of... The film starts out a bit... Well, when she gets kidnapped, it does feel a lot like Taken. So many people have said that. You can feel that. You can absolutely understand that's the case. As I was coming out of the cinema, there were some other people coming out saying, yeah, that was a lot like Taken. I've just got a quick clip. This was something that one of our followers shared about 5 years ago when he went to see An Evening with Stallone, and Stallone was talking about this film this was August 2014, and in this he says it's going to be like Taken, or an aspect of it is going to be like Taken. So let's just line that up. It makes a bit of a joke about the title, actually. Let's have a look.
Down to Mexico, looking for a girl, and it's not Taken, but we'll call it Shaken. It'll be anyway, it's a really interesting story. I don't know if anyone ever saw a film called No Country for Old Men.
And it kind of goes on anyway. So obviously that was always the agenda with this. That was always going to be the plot line of it. It wasn't politically motivated. This was back in 2014. It was quite a bit before Donald Trump and build a wall and all that kind of stuff, with people getting sort of righteously indignant about that whole situation. This film doesn't really... That's not a major part of the plot. It's the cartel in Mexico, which is a real thing, which actually exists, which actually is a problem, which actually does get involved with sex trafficking, that kind of thing. As it happens in my country, in the UK, this just happens to deal with that. There's no political message to the film. The problem is now, with the negative reviews, they all have a huge political agenda when talking about this film. They're not actually talking about the film. They're talking about their political agenda and how this film offended them because they read that into it. It's the exact same on the flip side of the coin, where you had people saying how Mad Max Fury Road was a feminist piece, which I didn't feel it was. You can make an argument, and I can sort of meet you part way, but it wasn't a feminist agenda movie as such. It just had a few aspects of that. But again, it's just people have just really gone to town on this movie, and the Rotten Tomatoes score on this was pretty low as a result of that. And when you look at it all, it's all people with Trump derangement syndrome making that the centre of everything. And it pisses me off, not because I'm a Trump supporter, because I'm not a Trump supporter. We have common ground. But when you're infecting the film review space, the online community or whatever, with your political bias, that has nothing to do with the film. That's not what this film was about. It really does misrepresent movies. And I don't really put out a lot of video reviews, but I felt like I should do it for this, just maybe to even the balance. So all two people that watch this review will maybe have a bit of a balance pushing the other way. Because I thought it was a pretty good movie, to be honest. Wasn't the best Rambo film, wasn't as good as number 4, but that was a really good film. So again, that's not a bad thing as such. I did enjoy this, it has to be said. But like I say, the political agenda of the negative reviewers is just pretty shameful. It's really sad that they do this, and some pretty high profile ones as well. Even David Morrell, the Rambo creator that wrote the original book, even he's come out and said he's kind of ashamed that his name is attached to this, and he shared a link when he tweeted that out. When you follow the link, it's a USA Today article, and it's all about Donald Trump and Orange Man Bad and Trump derangement syndrome. So again, it's not actually talking about the film or anything on a technical level at all. It's all politically driven, biased, well, not biased, but prejudiced, just completely unrelated, irrelevant crap. So if we could just keep that out of this, I think the movie could otherwise be quite well received if it's not for that misperception that's been sold by these prejudiced reviewers. So I'm available at children's parties, by the way, if anyone wants me to come and perform and talk about this stuff, but joke, obviously. So yeah, basically, I think, well, actually, one other spoiler. Rambo doesn't die in this. That was one thing that I kind of felt was where the character was always going to go. This film isn't that nihilistic that it ends that way. There's some quite fun bits in this as well. Like even at the end where there's like a massive shootout. The film ends kind of like the end of Skyfall. It was quite similar to that. But there's a bit where he's in all these tunnels, everyone's shooting each other, and he set up these traps, like I say, just like in Skyfall. And he has this huge speaker with music that he turns on, and it's a song by The Doors. I can't remember what it's. Is it 5 to 1 or something? I can't remember what the name of the song's called. It's a good song by The Doors, and as you can tell, I'm a big fan of Jim Morrison and The Doors. So that was like, yes, excellent, and it just added to the end becoming a bit more fun. So it's not quite as nihilistic and dark and grim, especially because after number 4 was very much like that. That film did not let up at all. I mean, there's some satisfaction to some of the over the top action in it, but there wasn't anything in it that just kind of rocked. This kind of does at the end, and it was, like I say, it was quite a satisfying thing to see. I could spoil the film more and go into more of the story, but I just say watch the film. You will enjoy it. It's only 90 minutes as well, which is good, because I hate now that films have to be at least 2 hours. I mean, a 2-hour film is actually pretty short. It feels like it. So for a film to just be 90 minutes, that's all this film needs to be. Is great. They might do an extended cut. It did feel like there were some other characters that were in this film that could maybe be fleshed out a little bit more. I don't know if they'll do an extended cut of this at all, but it'd be interesting to see if they do. Just as long as they don't extend it too much. Because I thought the pacing of it, not that I'd like get into the pacing and so on of movies, I'm not a film student, but obviously it's a factor. If it had really stretched out, it would have felt like it was a slow burner. It does take a little bit of a while before things really get kicking into this, but it kind of has to because it sets up meaning for all the deaths and blood at the end, because otherwise you've just got a generic action film, which I didn't feel this was. I felt this was Rambo 5, what it should be. Whether or not you think this franchise should have got to a 5th film is a different argument. It felt like they were stretching out when we knew they were getting a 5th film before any trailers or any information about it. But, you know, it is what it is. They've done the film. It's there. Learn to live with it. It's here now. What do you think? I thought it was good. So I give it a 7 out of 10, which by the way I see it, anything over 5 is an average movie. 6 is a good movie. 7 is a pretty good movie. So that's my review. So I'll leave it there. I rambled for quite a bit, so don't really have much else to say. Brand Next Reviews, if you want to follow us on YouTube, obviously you can do. Also on Facebook and Instagram. But for now, I will leave it there and say thank you very much for watching.
And how are you today?